Hey YouTube, in today's video, we're going to cover a very interesting cryptocurrency that's just hit the market, at least in MainNet. It's called Chia. And Chia is interesting because it's doing some things that honestly I've never seen before. It's got my interest. It's got some new things that you should be aware of. And who knows, this may actually be one of those really cool cryptos that you may want to get involved with and even get involved in the claiming, not mining, but claiming process. Want to know more? I'm going to cover all of this, all on Chia, and so much more coming right up. Hey guys, it's Wes Spencer. Thank you so much for spending some time with me again today. I'm talking about a brand new crypto called Chia. We're going to talk about why it's interesting to me. Now, if we've not met before, I am a tech entrepreneur. I am also loving this channel. I cover all things crypto, cybersecurity, startups, all of that fun stuff. So thanks for joining. And if it's your first time here, which is a good chance considering this is a brand new crypto and you've probably been searching for it, hey, one thing you could do is hit the subscribe button. I would love to be able to connect with you. Hit the bell icon, hit the like button. It really does go a long way. In this channel, we're not about moon pumping. We're not about price speculation. The truth is no one really knows the truth of what crypto is going to go to what. It's all guessing. I'd rather just stick to cryptos that interest me. Maybe the ones I cover will be successful. Maybe they won't. But I just want to give you guys input and visibility into things that I just think are really interesting, and I'll always tell you why. So let's go ahead and jump into Chia. So Chia is actually not new. They were founded in 2017, so kind of an old company when you think about it, but they've been doing a lot of R&D. They've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes. And once I kind of reveal what Chia is all about, it's probably not going to shock you. You're going to be like, oh, okay, I get it. I see why this took some time. It's not like a lot of these burn tokens that just spin up overnight. It's not like a lot of other things that are just, a copy and paste of something new. This is truly organic, built from scratch material. The other thing I think is interesting about Chia is I want you to think of the entire Chia network, the Chia project, is really a company first with an augmentation of a crypto to drive it. Not the other way around. Not where it's like a crypto first and maybe it'll truly blossom into a real company. See, this is very similar to the startup world. Oftentimes in the startup world, you're building a product and you're hoping it can become a company, like something real out of it. That's what we're pursuing when we talk about product market fit. Well, this is very similar with Chia. When you start looking at Chia, how they've built the company, how they've got it funded, where it's going as a company, you'll really see this is a company with a vision first and a cryptocurrency to drive its economy second. You also know when I vet cryptos, and at the end of this video, I'm going to show you kind of my vetting process of Chia. But one thing I talk about a lot is founder credibility. Like, who are they? Do they make themselves known? Do they put their name behind what they've created, or is it an anonymous project? I'm not totally against anonymous projects, but I do want to see founder credibility as one of my check marks. Well, guess what? This one has it, and it has it in spades. If you're not aware of who the founder of Chia is, this is important. It's somebody named Bram Cohen. Now, does that ring a bell to you? It may not, and if it doesn't, that's okay. So here's Bram right here. Bram is really interesting because he is the creator of BitTorrent. Now, most of you have probably heard of BitTorrent. BitTorrent is, think of it as like a protocol that's often used for file sharing. Now, while it may also be used to share like illegal movies and music and other illicit material, it's also very commonly used in my world in cybersecurity. You want to download an image for like a brand new Linux distribution, chances are you want to get it from BitTorrent. Why? It's way faster, the way the seeding works, the way the entire platform works. And Bram was the creator of all of it, or at least most of it. He actually created the back-end protocol that works with the peers and the seeding and the sharing and the transmission and the encryption and all of that stuff. He's really truly like a network engineer that did something super innovative. And so he is the same one that's created Chia. And that may not sound like a huge deal, but think of his innovation and his background coming into Chia. And when I explain what Chia does here in just a minute, it'll all click with you and be like, oh, okay, this is super cool. I love the founder credibility. So that kind of adds two things to the Chia project. The first thing that adds is really this. The fact that he's been successful as an innovator in the past bodes well for Chia itself. It doesn't guarantee success. It never does. But oftentimes we're looking as investors and, hey, what's the background credentials of this company, of this person, whatever. And certainly Bram has it in spades because of what he did with BitTorrent. So we can have a lot of trust in his ideas and his ability to bring his capability to architect an innovative solution directly into Chia itself. But secondly, and let's be real here, just because he was successful with BitTorrent doesn't mean that actually BitTorrent as a company was successful. And so that's sort of like, it's not a negative. I'm just saying, don't think of Chia for sure as an absolute home run. This is new technology and new stuff. But when you think about BitTorrent, just as an example, it was a phenomenal protocol. Tons of people used it, still use it to this day. But BitTorrent as a company, and see, I bet you didn't even know that. Did you know BitTorrent was an actual incorporation, BitTorrent Inc.? That didn't really go anywhere, right? It didn't become some huge SaaS company that you've heard of in the news or anything like that. So just because it's innovative doesn't always mean it's successful. That's the second thing I wanted to cover. Oh, and as a side note, you know something else I think is always so interesting is how small this world can be. I love it when crypto and technology kind of collide together. Here's an example of this. You remember, I don't know if you saw my video on the rise and fall of Mt. Gox. It's right here if you want to kind of watch it. I'll have a link to it in the description down below. It's a super interesting documentary, and it's personal to me because I lost a lot of crypto from Mt. Gox. But I say all of this to say, do you know who the original creator of Mt. Gox is? If you watch the video, you would know it's not Mark Karpelès, who got in all this trouble in the Japanese courts for running Mt. Gox defunct and making yours truly lose a fair amount of crypto. Nope. It was actually somebody named Jed McCaleb. Now, why is Jed McCaleb interesting? Well, Jed is not just the creator of Mt. Gox, he was the creator of eDonkey, which was a file sharing platform. And not only that, after his days of selling Mt. Gox, he created a little cryptocurrency company you've probably heard of called Ripple. He had some disagreements with the other founders, left Ripple, and went to create another little cryptocurrency company you've probably heard of called Stellar, which I love Stellar. I own a lot of Stellar, and Stellar is super interesting to me. I cover the Pi cryptocurrency. If you've not seen any of my videos on that, go check some of those out. That's also based on Stellar. It's a fork of Stellar. So this is always so interesting to me when all these small worlds combine, like Jed McCaleb being the founder of eDonkey, also the founder of Ripple and Stellar, and just how all that kind of combined together, and also Mt. Gox. And in this case, in today's video, it's relevant because Bram Cohen was the creator of BitTorrent, but also Chia Project. And by the way, guess what happened to BitTorrent? Anyone know what happened to the company? Probably you don't, but a little pop quiz. I'll wait for you. 5 seconds to see if you can figure out who in the world or what in the world happened. A little trivia for you. Okay, you probably didn't know, and I didn't know either, but there's a cryptocurrency project called Tron. And again, small world, Tron ended up buying BitTorrent as a company. It's just so interesting sometimes how this world is really quite small. Okay, so let's go back to Chia now. So you've been patient with me as I kind of gave you a walk through history lane of why this whole project is interesting to me. So let's cover what Chia actually is. So if you go and read on the website, Chia will talk about this. They'll say, hey, we are a proof of space and time protocol or platform. And all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, what? Space time? Like warping this world? Like what? It's like, no, nothing like that. They should have put like a comma in it. It's more like this. Let me rephrase what they said. It's proof of space and proof of time together, not proof of space time like Einstein would be so proud, like finally crypto is like infiltrated in Einstein's research. No, we're just talking about two of these separate concepts. And so I want to talk about why I think that's really interesting, because I've never seen a proof of space protocol ever before. And here's the basic concept of how all of this works. We all have extra space lying around on our hard drive, right? I promise you do. Just if you're on Windows, go to my computer right now, or Mac, go check it out. I guarantee you have gigs and gigs and gigs, maybe terabytes free of empty space. And that's kind of a universal for all of us. And the idea behind Chia and proof of space is, rather than leveraging what Bitcoin does with proof of work, which I'll get to in just a minute, it's leveraging the additional unallocated, unused space on your hard drive as a proof mechanism. That's why they call it proof of space, proof of unallocated space. We all have it. Why not use it? And what's so interesting about this is, notice I didn't use the word mining and all of that. We're not actually mining like we are at Bitcoin, where, the Bitcoin protocol broadcasts a new block and everyone rushes to compute it. And the more power you have, the higher the chance you have of being the first to win it. This doesn't work like that. It uses unallocated space, which you pre-generate inside of your hard drive. You have what they call a plot, and we'll discuss that all in just a minute. And that plot is available to be used to potentially find rewards. And I love this idea because rather than mining, it's really this idea of farming. It's this idea of what they call building a plot, farming that plot, seeding that plot, and ultimately yielding harvest from that plot. As someone that grew up in a rural community, it resonates with me. I really love the farming mechanism. And the reason I think that's awesome is simply because of this. If you're not aware of what's happened in Bitcoin in just the past, 5 to 10 years, really, honestly, what we've seen is a huge shift from Satoshi's original idea of proof of work being something that anybody could do. Like, you just spin up your own computer and mine. Well, he had no idea that there would be an arms race that would go from mining from just being on a CPU to a GPU, and people will then start buying lots and lots of GPUs to get ahead. I don't know if you remember those original mining rigs back in the day. I might or might not have had one of those that have a whole bunch of GPUs connected in together to a motherboard. And then eventually we went from those to ASICs. ASICs, think of those as like specialized SHA-256 miner devices, or if you don't know what that means, just a device that's built to do one thing and one thing only, mine Bitcoin. And they really are useless for everything else, but they're super, super, super fast at that one task. And now we have all of these huge mining farms, especially in China, but in the US as well, and other countries, where you see mining at such a massive scale that this is the truth. If you just spun up your own computer or bought even like 4 or 5 GPUs for a few $1,000s and started mining, chances are you would never solve a block. Or if you joined into a mining pool, you'd be making pennies off that pool. Yuck, right? That's not the way that Satoshi, in my mind, ever envisioned Bitcoin. And so the idea behind Chia is, hey, how can we incentivize and bring back not mining, but claiming a cryptocurrency in the same form and fashion mindset using something we all have, which is what? Proof of space. Proof of hard drive availability that we can carve out and use ourselves to get involved in a project and earn some money. That's kind of awesome. So in a future video, I will show you how all of this works, how you can actually spin Chia up, what Chia looks like, how to build a plot, all of that kind of stuff. But for now, in this video, I just want to do an intro to Chia to kind of get you thinking and get you super interested in the protocol itself and the platform and the company as well. Now, let's get a little bit more technical before I show you the actual site and I walk you through some news items that I think are important around all of this. You may be wondering, technically, how does this actually work? Well, I think there's a very technical answer and then there's a less technical answer. And just for my audience, we're going to pursue the less technical answer first, just so you can kind of get an idea of how all this works. So let me make an analogy back to BitTorrent for a minute. Remember, we were talking about that, and he's the creator, so I figured I'd use this as a good analogy. Most people understand the generics of how BitTorrent works, right? There's some seed file that I download that connects me to a bunch of seeds or peers that I can grab the file from. It's got some kind of mechanism on the back end to be able to grab pieces here, pieces there to make it super fast to share. The way all of the peers and torrenting works, we know the generics of it. Do we actually know the actual bits and bytes and algorithms behind it? No. We just know the high level. Well, when you think of Chia, think of it the same way. So here's what's happening. When you're allocating space on your hard drive, you're basically creating a whole bunch of hashes, so to speak, or answers inside of the network that you're pre-compiling and pre-computing. And what will happen in the Chia network is once you've done all of the hard work of doing that once, and it's pretty CPU intensive. I've been creating a plot myself. It took about 8 hours for me to create my own plot of hard drive space. So it's very intensive to do this at the very beginning, but once it's done, it's simple. It's as simple as almost like a Google search, just a quick lookup. And so what'll happen is when the Chia network broadcasts for an answer, everybody that's been farming will go and look across their plots and see if they have a match, or what Chia sometimes calls a close match. And if you have it, you send the answer back and say, I have the answer, and ta-da, you have now been awarded some new Chia. very similar to Bitcoin, where you're trying to attack or process or be the first to brute force solve a block answer. This is sort of like I'm doing the work ahead of time and then I'm just going to look up the answer. Another correlation to this, if you're a security person like me, is rainbow tables. So a lot of like what we call penetration testers, those that attack systems legally, they love rainbow tables. So you spend all this work ahead of time pre-computing all these hashes to like bajillions of different passwords. And so sometimes if you get a password hash for something and you want to know what the actual correlating password is, I could go brute force it over and over and over. Or if I've already done all the work, I can just go consult my rainbow tables and find the answer super quick. And that's very similar to what Chia is doing here. Is so because you may be thinking when you watch this video, like, okay, so how is all this is confusing to me? Like, if I'm just creating a bunch of like plotted space on my hard drive and Chia wants an answer to say who's the closest to this answer, why can't I just do it right now and give the answer back and say, ta-da, I've got it? Well, that's the reason. It's actually very, very, very CPU intensive to build the plot ahead of time and then very easy to reap the harvest once you have it. In other words, let me say it this way. High level, you're not going to just be able to on the fly give an answer back to the Chia network. You're going to have to create these plots. It's the only way to effectively do this safely and quickly. It's the only way. And so I think this is a really interesting perspective because while we all are not going to buy big ASICs to mine Bitcoin, we all have extra hard drive space. And once those plots are created, your plot is as equal to me as my plot, which is awesome. And I might want to create extra plots. So I might go like purchase some super cheap spindle disk USB-based hard drives to store those plots on, right? But that's super cheap. And it levels the playing field to where anybody can get involved in this. There are some people online that are just going and buying like super old Dell servers, like a Dell R710, something like that, loading it with hard drive space and putting plot after plot after plot after plot on it. And guess what? All in, it cost them a few $100s to acquire that old server and, a few $100s more to get a ton of hard drives. So it's just interesting to see anybody can get involved in Chia without super high costs getting in the way. And I think that's really, really interesting and bodes well for the project itself. All right, so do you want to see Chia in action? Let me show you a few things. First of all, let's go check out the website because I think this is a great way to start. Just chia.net, super easy to get to it. I'll put a link in the description down below so you'll have it, which shouldn't be a big deal, right? But you can see all of the information here. I'm going to cover some things that I think are pretty important. So first of all, if you want to install it, here it is right here. This is the actual executable for Windows, Mac, Linux, all that good stuff. It is both the node, it is both the wallet, it is both the ability for you not to do mining, but it's the actual platform that lets you carve out your plots to seed them, all of that good stuff. So it's all right here. It's all open source, which is also good, a huge check mark from the transparency perspective from me. And remember, Chia is super cool with making this open source because it's the company that's driving the future and not so much the cryptocurrency itself. And so they're happy to make this completely open source, which I think is great. Another thing they mention is, and you see this right here, this Chialisp. So another good thing about Chialisp, I want to show this to you. Here it is. So Chialisp is their actual programming language. And I think it's built off of Rust, if I remember right. But regardless, it's a very easy way for you, if you're a developer, to build on top of the Chia network. Now, we don't have much of that going on right now because Chia is so new. But this is good, just like Ethereum, just like a BSC, like a lot of the other cryptos are out there where you can build second layer stuff on top of Chia or on top of those others. You can do the same with Chia. And I think that's a great thing because it extends the capability and it really goes into the mission of what Chia is trying to do. So that's pretty awesome. Now, a couple things I did want to cover. There is a very extensive FAQ, and I do recommend you go read it. When you're doing your DYOR, right? No one trusts just my word on everything. I hope you don't, right? Like when I produce something I think is interesting, I always want you to do your own research and see if something is right for you or not. And if it's not, no sweat. And if you don't like what I cover, no big deal, right? I'm not going to be offended by that. But I am going to cover what I think is interesting, but you have to do your own research. This FAQ is a great place to do it. There are multiple white papers. In fact, here's their business white paper if you want to kind of see more from the company vision side, and I'll share more about my thoughts on that in just a minute. But a couple things I did want to cover in transparency. So they have pre-farmed some of their crypto, and a lot of times I don't like that. A lot of times I'm not a fan of like ICOs, of pre-farming, because sometimes I'm like, well, that lowers my ability to trust the project. Are they just, creating a whole bunch of their own? They're trying to spin this thing up and they're going to rug pull it away and just dump their own shares and make a bunch of money once it's been spun up, and people like me on my channel cover this. Well, in this case, I don't think Chia is going to do that. Number one, because we know who the founders are and they don't want to lose their street cred. Number two, they're pretty honest of where Chia is going as a company. It's a true company. It actually has real venture funding. So I don't think that their venture capitalist funding providers are going to be very happy with the fact that they would do a rug pull. I think that's a big boon as well to make sure we're protected. But they also explain why they're doing this. They're basically pre-farming to raise capital. If you're not familiar with this term, this is basically saying we want to have some liquidity, some funds set aside. So as we grow as a company, we can fund some things. We can do some things with that funding to get things going much quicker and to scale it faster. So one example that they give is working with payment ecosystems and being able to use that to incentivize people to say, use Chia as a mechanism to actually facilitate payments. I think that's pretty interesting. They talk about working with government systems and all kinds of other like authorities, they call them, which I think is a solid idea. The other thing that I think is really interesting when you read through the FAQ is they are going to use their Chia also to fund new startups that are going to exist in the Chia world. So if you're watching this and you're like a blockchain developer and you're super interested in Chia, there will come a day when you may be able to pitch to them, and using Chia, they'll fund you in your project, which I think is really, really cool. I think it's a great idea. And the other thing I think is interesting, when you read between the lines of Chia, you're going to see them talk about they're using this capital to make sure that they promote stability, because their vision and future of Chia itself is to truly become a payment mechanism. Let's be honest. What's been one of the major like hindrances to like most cryptocurrencies not becoming a true payment mechanism, like Ethereum or Bitcoin? Well, in Ethereum's case, super high gas fees. Transaction speed's not fast enough. I know they're working on that. In the case of Bitcoin, extreme volatility. Shoot, even with Ethereum right now, extreme volatility, right? And so that is a problem for people that want to use cryptocurrency like those to pay because they're not stable. Well, guess what is stable? Stable coins like US dollar and Tether and a bunch of those that are out there. And the whole idea of stable coins is both for hedging, which is for another video, and then also used for just stability to incentivize some platform to, to choose people to say, yeah, I can pay with this because I know it's stable. I know I didn't pay for a coffee today for $1 Bitcoin, and had I just held it until yesterday, worth $20. Right? No one wants that to happen. And so that's a definite disincentive. Well, with Chia, they're trying to incentivize stability. And so they've talked about this in their FAQ. They're actually going to use their liquidity to stabilize their ecosystem. They're not a stable coin, but I think that they really want it to become like a stable coin, and they're going to use it for that purpose, which I think is really, really cool. So anyway, check out the rest of Chia. Really, really interesting to see where it's going. All their links are down here below. They talk about what I just mentioned. Isn't the current monetary system good enough? In their view, no. I happen to agree with some of their statements here. We've known this for a long time. Wire transfers and Western Union and things like that are slow. They're monotonous. They're expensive. And so they're trying to sub all of this. So take a look through their FAQ, and you really get a lot of answers of what I was hinting at for sure. Now, is Chia growing? Where's Chia going with all of this? Well, a few things I wanted to share with you. One is check out this Tom's Hardware link. This was just a few days ago that was published. And so Chia has already blown up. So Tom's Hardware is reporting that there's already been 1 exabyte of storage already built into this. Some of that's mine, but clearly not an exabyte of mine. In fact, if you scroll down, they even show, this is from Chia themselves. Look at the growth rate that's happened. So pretty staggering growth. And I was looking on YouTube, there's a lot of Chia videos that are out there, like why people think it's interesting. And so I just thought from my channel, from my audience, it's time to expose this one to you. I'm very interested, and I think it's going somewhere. I think it's got a lot of potential. So this is pretty cool to see all of the growth that's happening in it. But also, I have also seen some of the other articles saying like, look, Chia is becoming so big that it's going to become pretty soon very difficult to get solid state drives, spindle drives, because now everyone can get involved in this mining process, which I think is really, really interesting. Another thing that I think is interesting, I'm going to come back to this a little bit more when I show you how to like build your own Chia plots and become a Chia farmer. But I'm going to show a little piece of this to you as well. There are actually pools that are out, or at least coming out. Here is the Foxy pool. It's not ready yet, but it is coming soon. Now, the reason pools are important, just like Ethereum mining, just like Bitcoin mining and many others, oftentimes even you creating your own plots, because of that growth you saw, you're not going to be profitable. You're not going to have a chance of solving something in the Chia network without joining a group of peers and putting all your resources together and thereby sharing when you actually win. That's the whole idea of pools. So pools are also coming out really, really soon, which I think is super, super cool. And the last thing I wanted to cover before I have my conclusions is I did promise, I said that they've been funded by some third parties, which is a good thing. Here is their funding itself. You can just go right to Crunchbase. I love Crunchbase. I use it all the time. And you can see what's going on here. So you can see they raised a $3.7 million funding round, which is really, really good. You can scroll down and you can see how that was made up of. You can see who produced it. You can actually see the lead investor right here and what his background is. He comes from AngelList. I'm actually not super familiar with Naval, but that's great, right? It's good to see they actually have real funding behind them. You can see a little bit more to see more about who was involved in this funding round. Some really big ones, right? Like Greylock and True Ventures and some others that I know of. So again, the funding is really, really good, and I think a big deal. So let's go back into conclusions as I kind of close all of this out. I am really interested in what Chia is doing. In a future video, I will go into, like I said, how to create a Chia plot, the things you need to think about it, why I think pools are important, and just how that whole process works. It's not super difficult. It is a little bit time consuming on the beginning part of it, but I think it's really, really useful and helpful to just kind of see how all this would work. And then for the sysadmins out there, or those that really understand how to do some really cool things, I'm going to show you how some people are doing some more sophisticated mining and creating multiple plots together and how all of that works. But in conclusion, I promised you that I would start using my rating system on cryptos, and so let's go ahead and use that now, and you can see my overall thoughts and opinions on Chia Network itself. So first thing I like to look at is transparency. Big thumbs up from me because we know who the creators are, we know what they're doing. The white papers are out there. They've got a green paper, they've got a business paper that are out there that truly show us what's going on with it. I think that's a huge thumbs up. It's open source. It checks all the boxes there. Just stellar, shining thumbs up from Wes on that one. Founder credibility, also a huge thumbs up. We know who Bram is. We know his capabilities. We know those that are funding him, at least some of those that are funding him. So we know that it's coming from third parties that are going to be invested and hold them accountable. All good things there. Super shining, stellar example. Funding, I just kind of covered that. They do have funding. I just showed it to you on Crunchbase. It's not the most important metric of mine, but it's one I love to see when it's there. Big thumbs up. They've got that involved as well. And then fourth is product market fit. Look, that's a question mark. That's why this is an innovative cryptocurrency. Is Chia going to take off? Well, so far the data is showing, yes, it's taking off, but how far will it go? It's got a long, long, long way to go in its maturation process, both in including more farmers involved in the network, both including more people developing on top of it, the success of the platform itself, their ability to secure deals and third parties and partnerships. Got a super long way to go. So there is no guarantee, but it's definitely not a thumbs down, right? Like there's nothing here that makes me think that's a terrible idea and will never succeed. So it's a question mark, not as a negative question mark, just as this is an early crypto. And I think it's really interesting. And then lastly, outside credibility, it's got that in spades. There are lots of people that are talking about it. Because it's open source, we can look directly into the actual code itself and make sure everything is clean and clear there, which we know that it is. So in conclusion, I am a big fan of this. Now, in my follow-up video, I'm going to answer another question, which I'm not prepared to answer quite yet, which is, will yours truly be a farmer? Now, I'm farming right now because I want to experience and see what all this is going to look like. But am I interested in mass scale farming? To be continued. But I do think this. I am absolutely going to be an investor in the Chia project. I am absolutely going to be buying Chia when it hits exchanges, especially if it hits some early exchanges that come out. I am very, very interested in getting in early on this. I think the price will grow. I think where it's going with traction is going to make it better. Currently, I own 0 Chia, and I've not been paid to do this review. I just think it's really, really interesting. So I am a big believer in where Chia is going. We'll see if it'll be successful. Way too early to know the answers to that, but certainly something that is worth paying attention to. And if you've been looking to get into a crypto, this may be the answer for you, especially if you have like a ton of old machines lying around, you get a lot of hard drive space, you've been itching to get back into something fun like this again. You're kind of like me and you're like, man, I miss the old days of mining and creating crypto out of nowhere. this may be the solution for you. But I'd love to know what you think. So far, what do you think about Chia? Is Chia going anywhere? Will Chia be as successful? Will it fall flat on its face? And what do you think the future is going to be? All you've got to do is leave me a comment down below. I'd love to know what you think. And hey, while you're here, I said this at the beginning of the video, would you hit the subscribe button? Would you hit the bell icon, and please hit the like button? All of those things do go a long way for the algorithm, for my channel as we're growing. Guys, I just want to thank you so much for watching. I'd love to know your thoughts. Until next time, I will see you later.